Hello and welcome back to Misericorde. Last we left off, Hedwig had finally gotten to have a bath, relax a little, decompress after a stressful morning. One content warning for this episode: there will be a drawing of a beheaded woman. I will have a timestamp in the description below, so you can skip over it. It's quite brief on screen. So let's continue on. Even if I was not completely refreshed in spirit, the bath certainly did wonders for me physically. I could no longer count each individual bone in my body aching, at the very least. The noon bell rang. I stood up in the bath, scanning around for a towel of some sort. I spotted one, a simple piece of linen cloth, folded next to the habit Moira had washed for me. I stepped out of the bath while the bell was still ringing and dropped to my knees, resting my elbows against the edge of the tub with my hands clasped together. I began reciting the Psalms for Sext. I'm going to have to read so much Latin for this. Cantisum gradum ad te levavi oculus meus, qui habitas in caeli. Hello? I wheeled around with a start, twisting into an uncomfortable position, attempting to cover my shame and turn to face my visitor at the same time. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. I was just coming to collect you for luncheon. It's alright, I was just reciting the office. Really? Which one? Sext. The noon office. Do you not? Oh, yes. Well, since we break for luncheon at midday, we roll that one into prime. This was deeply embarrassing, for several reasons. I rose to my feet, strategically covering myself. Moira politely held a hand out in front of her eyes. Did I interrupt it then? In the chapel? I would never blame you for it in that sense. But I began drying myself off with the towel, pressing it against my hair gently and hastily running it along my body. I must confess that I'm a little behind on all the offices today. I slept through matins as well. Matins? Oh, don't worry yourself about that. We roll matins into prime as... What? I flung the towel to the ground in shock. So dismayed I was. Moira, still holding her hand in front of her face, let out a nervous giggle. It's fairly normal, as far as I know. We have morning prayer and evening prayer. If we spent all day following the hours to the letter, we'd never get anything done. Or any sleep at all. Were you really getting up in the middle of the night to pray? Yes. And dropping everything to recite psalms throughout your day? Yes! My goodness, that's so unfair. The superior never told you about how monasteries condense the hours? The bishop didn't either? No. I find it hard to believe, to be perfectly honest. This is a funny kind of difference because, Hedwig has had very few material concerns to have to deal with inside... I've forgotten now. Inside her little cell. She literally has her translation work and then otherwise does not have... Doesn't have to do the kind of other maintenance work that you would do around a chapel in general, around a monastery in general. So it is less of an inconvenience for her to interrupt her translation work to do prayers at precise hours and times. Whereas these nuns could be making food or something. There's lots of different stuff they could do that is a lot more context dependent and doesn't allow as much leeway. I began to put my fresh clothes on. They smelled and felt lovely. Little dried leaves fell out of the sleeves and robe as I lifted them. I bent down to pick one of them up after I'd slid the cloak over my head. Those are from our garden. Aren't they nice? Extremely so. You really don't recite the hours as written. This isn't... I don't know. A prank? Why would I pull a prank on you? I have no idea. The superior just put the idea in my head, I suppose. At morning prayer. Oh, of course. Flora's the one to watch out for. She's full of youthful vigor. Or Darcy. Or... well, Catherine. Or Margaret. She looked sheepish. I can see why you might be wary of practical jokes. But please believe me when I tell you that condensing the hours into morning and evening prayers is fairly standard around monasteries these days. In fact, I think it might have been for a long while now. I supposed I'd have no way of knowing otherwise. This does seem to imply that Hedwig was not just operating normally in a monastery before this. She wasn't part of this monastery and then went to be an anchoress or anything. Or in another monastery and then came here. Maybe she was in another monastery that was very strict, or it's just been so long she's forgotten. But I'm increasingly getting the impression that her duty immediately began as being sealed into that room. And it's accepted? I don't think anyone's ever gone to hell for rearranging their calendar, if that's what you're asking. Are you dressed now? Just about. Moira lifted her hand from her eyes. Now would you look at that? Fresh as anything. Thank you very much for washing them. Oh, don't mention it. Hopefully you're feeling a bit better now. Once we get some lunch in, you'll be as good as new, I reckon. I'm looking forward to it, but This might sound silly, but if I go to evening prayer tonight and do the rest of the hours, I still won't have caught up. Would you mind if I at least finished sext? No, not at all. Thank you very much. Ecce sicut oculi serverum in manibus dominorum suorum. I've never actually prayed for an audience. Would you like me to join you? Yes. That'd be lovely, actually. Moira beamed and walked over to the tub I had been using. She kneeled as I had been kneeling earlier, and I joined her. The pleasant scent of the leaves in the bath still lingered above the water. Sicut oculi ancillae in manibus domine suae, ita oculi nostri ad dominum deum nostrum donec miseritur nostri. We completed the liturgy and left in silence. I felt bolstered by the light of prayer, and the bath and fresh clothes had left me feeling warm and content. Moira strode in front of me, leading me to the rectory. When we arrived, I took a deep breath. Bathing in prayer rejuvenated my body and spirit, but I was still nervous about facing everyone. Both because of the harrowing events of the morning, but because of my mission. I hadn't forgotten, I just had no idea how to begin. Almost like she should have been giving some direction or support. The rectory was a long room, filled with a high ceiling. A large, aged table, already laden with plates, ran the length of the room. All the other sisters were there, and the superior was standing at the head of the table, appearing to hold court. Ah, wonderful. Are you feeling any better? Yes, very much so. Moira beamed and gently guided me to the foot of the table, where a stool was waiting. Oh, I couldn't. Please sit, so that everyone may be introduced to you. Properly, this time. This was the last thing I wanted, to be perfectly honest. But I obeyed. You smell nice. Thanks. You have already met Sister Darcy, of course. She tends to the garden and livestock, and is something of an alchemist. Of course, she also tends to the livestock. I prefer the title, Alchavisionist. I have deep concerns, but I trust her. Of course. Sitting next to her is Eustace. Charmed. Eustace is our sacristan and librarian. We actually have a great many rare books stored here that need to be taken care of. And read, most importantly. Not all of them have been catalogued. I am sure you and Eustace will get to know each other very well. She will be of great use to you as our new chronicler. This is our sister Flora. She's our youngest oblate. She's 17. I'm 19. Are you really? My goodness, time flies. I wish. I've been stuck here for 2 years now. Now, really. Stuck? Yeah, stuck. Well, she has not yet found her calling, but the youthful spirit of rebellion gives Flora the energy to help out with various tasks around the abbey. Did she make some choices with a boy or something and get sent here? Or just, well, whatever the specifics, I'm guessing her parents basically said, let's send her to a monastery. You have met Moira already, of course. Yes, indeed. Moira is our infirmary, but also pulls double weight as our chamberlain and hosteler on the rare occasions we have visitors. I'm the closest thing to a doctor here without, well, being a doctor, you know. Without having a man here, you mean? And the goodness for that, eh? A polite laugh went around the table. On your right, Hedwig, is Sister Marta. Marta has actually had many roles here, even before I was the prior. She was the chronicler before our last, and has also been our cantor. You can just say that I'm old, it's alright. I feel like a pirate voice is pulling me in for her. I wouldn't dream of it. You have much wisdom and many surprises left in you, Sister Marta. What do you do nowadays? I try to enjoy what's left of my life, dear. You run the cellars, you mean? I said what I said. And a damn fine job of running the cellar you do, I'll say. This is Sister Charity, who is, rather fittingly, our head almoner. Although there's not much of that to be done around here, I'm afraid. So I mostly strive to do the same as Marta here. You help in the cellars? I enjoy life. Next is Sister Margaret. We've met already. Margaret is another almoner, and also helps in the cellars. How much needs to be done in the cellars? I'm a precentor as well. Helped Catherine a lot with her writing. Margaret is very talented. She's also our first foreign oblate. I can't tell if this is sarcasm or this is actually helpful for her. Thank you very much for explaining that on my behalf, Soup. I'm sure Hedwig hadn't noticed. Okay, yeah, sarcasm. Anyway, it's not completely true. It is completely not true, in fact. Ah, Sister Adela. I thought you were born in Spain. I indeed was born in Spain, which is another country. I was born in Spain as well. What I meant was... This should be good. Our first oblate from outside the usual... Oh, stop digging. Here. The typical sphere of people who devote themselves to monastic life. Please stop digging yourself into this hole. Whole world's a sphere, boss. That's so true, Darcy. And I'm simply continuing the tradition of spreading the faith around the whole globe. Which is the entire purpose of the thing, or so I'm told. I'm Irish. That's great, Moira. I apologize. I did not mean to offend. I simply meant, stop digging this hole. No offense taken, Soup. I'm sure Hedwig knew what you meant. Well, hard act to follow. You have, of course, met Catherine. Her name was spelled with a K. But when speaking, we referred to her as Catherine I. Okay, so it was the first, not just I. Our old chronicler was Catherine II. We had a little contest for it, and Catherine II was very gracious in defeat. A crying shame what happened to her. Catherine is our... Come to think of it, Catherine, what is your title? I dabble. This is Sister Adela. She was actually our newest oblate before you decided to join the congregation. That's right. I am moving up the social ladder. Adela has also not really settled into her role yet. Like Flora, she helps out wherever she can. And finally, we have met already. I gulped. I am the prior. My second in command. We sat in silence for a moment. I'm from Wales. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Darcy. That one's for me. Well, now that we're all caught up, everyone's heads bowed instantaneously. I hastily lowered my head as well to join in the hushed whispers. Let us eat. On my plate were 2 thick slices of bread, far thicker than I'd ever been given in my cell. There was some kind of boiled meat and a crumbly hunk of white cheese. I glanced around. Everyone was already digging in with their fingers. I followed suit, starting with the bread. It was light and fluffy with a crisp crust. A finger appeared above my plate suddenly. Duck. What? The meat. It's duck. With herbs. From your garden? That's right. I pinched off a piece and marveled at how juicy it was. I put it in my mouth and was overwhelmed. Wow. I helped. Yeah, you killed the duck. Well, yes. Because you cry if you have to do it. Suddenly Darcy is 10 times better. That's right. I raised them, and named them, and loved them. You really shouldn't do that for starters. Name them? Yes, or love them. I'm good at names is the thing. I need to know what she names the ducks. That's true. And once I've named something, it's impossible not to love it. Yes, thank you for asking this. What was the duck's name? I'd offer my compliments. If they were still alive, anyway. No clue. Oh, huh. She doesn't let me tell her which ones are being slaughtered. Oh, yeah. Hang on, but you'd still... Yes, she figures that out eventually when she checks in on the animals. Look, it makes sense. How does it make sense, Darcy? I'm going to be a little sad about it no matter what, but I can't stop it from happening. But I can put it off, so I'm not sad about it at lunch, which is a horrible time to be sad. Does knowing you're going to be sad later not make you sad now? No. Why? Because the duck tastes good. Nobody seemed to be able to argue with this logic. That's our Darce. That's our Darce! Everyone continued eating in silence for a moment. How do you tell the difference between animals? Knowledge. I shouted involuntarily all of a sudden as I felt a hand beneath the table tapping my knee. I looked over to my right at Marta, who smirked. She tapped my knee again as the others continued their conversation. Is she gonna slip a note or something? Huh. Is it difficult killing the ducks? Not really. They're not much of a match for me, if I'm being honest. I suppose you have a knife in that situation. I assure you I could easily defeat a duck even without a knife. What about 2 ducks? Absolutely. 3? Again, definitely. I think you are all really overestimating how much damage a duck could do to me. I am an adult woman. The tapping on my knee continued. She, still smirking, tilted her head down, indicating I should look lower. I did, and saw that she was holding a handful of... something. Understanding, finally I held out my hand. She nodded and returned to her meal. Ducks can be really mean. Have you ever seen an angry duck? Yes. They don't love being killed, funnily enough. What? They can, see you coming? They know they're about to die? I mean, I don't have to ambush them if that's what you were wondering. They usually figure it out by the time I pick them up by the neck and put them on the chopping block, though. How would one sneakily attack a duck? Very easily, probably. They are ducks. But you don't attack them that way. Correct. Why not? Again, I feel like you all are severely overestimating the power of a single duck and underestimating me. A fully grown human person. How many ducks would it take before you think you'd lose? I could defeat every duck. It is simply not a problem for me. Every duck? Come on. I could defeat infinite ducks. They are small and have little necks. I could kill a duck by accident. It simply doesn't require any measurable amount of my strength. You would get tired eventually. I would not. You're talking as if they're ants. I think it requires a little more energy to kill a duck than an insect. Especially if there were a lot of them at once. I would swing my arms. I would kick out my legs. A group of ducks would crumple immediately in a fight against me. Okay, now I'm thinking about you killing a lot of ducks, and it's making me really sad because I'm imagining you killing all the ducks I'm looking after with spin kicks and punches, and I love those little ducks and I hate this conversation now. I'm sorry, Darcy, I didn't mean to upset you. We're speaking hypothetically here. I'm not going to kill all of your ducks. Aren't you? Isn't that what the point is? That's okay, thank you, Eustace. Yeah, maybe don't go into this for Darcy's sake, but also this is the truth. She's not going to kill them all at once anyway. Just the ones we need for food. See, she's backpedaling. She thought we wouldn't notice. Hedwig. Madam? She stood up, holding her empty plate. I should like to see you in my office when you've finished eating. I didn't know what they were. I just stuck my hand out. Oh my god, Hedwig is not suited for espionage and investigation. This is a doomed endeavor. I guess this is a good time as any for me to say that I have a slight suspicion that the superior is like, in some advanced chess way, wants the investigation to fail and assumed that Hedwig would be incapable of it, but she needed to make a show as if she was doing a real investigation. More time will tell. I haven't really had enough. The Mother Superior is an interesting figure because she's just seemed shitty for the most part, but we really don't know a lot of her interiority, and I don't trust most of what she has said because we've seen her explicitly lie. She's probably the only person we know is like... She's the only person we have concrete reasons to distrust significantly. I beg your pardon? Oh, nothing. Silence. Sorry, that was too late. I'm sorry, but Hedwig is so unsuited to this investigation. Oh, she is not ready for this. They're just dried apples, dear. Oh. What? Come on, Marta, give me some too. Absolutely not. You've been a little cunt lately. Marta. Crone. Gutter snipe. Ranyan? Ranyan. That's enough. The superior looked irritated. Flora and Marta looked as if they were having a grand old time. Hedwig. I'd just like to speak with you privately about your new duties as chronicler, now that you're feeling better. You are giving her no time. I also have a strong feeling that it's not going to be that. It's going to be like, so who do you suspect? What have you found out? Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. One of the others will show you where my office is when you are ready. She strode out of the room magnanimously. Take your time. Enjoy the rest of your luncheon. I started nibbling on some cheese. Everyone was watching me. I'm happy to share the apples, if you'd all like. There was a dull roar of agreement from everyone in the room, all except for Angela, who'd been pretending to ignore everyone for the entire meal. I broke up the handful of dried fruit into 2 piles and passed to either side of me, keeping 1 piece for myself. Thank you kindly. So now that the elder mom is gone, do tell us about yourself. I realized that even now, after I had no more candied fruits to give, everyone in the room was staring at me with intense interest. Oh, well, I don't know what I could say that I didn't this morning. What did you say this morning? I must admit, wiping up your sick has overridden any memory of what you said prior. Sorry. Catherine shrugged, smirking. Margaret waved a hand. It gave us a chance to... Ow! A chance to reflect on the nature of servitude to God, and so on. I could see Angela raising one of her eyebrows out of the corner of my eye. What's it like? Being outside of the cell? Well, this is very nice. I'm so glad to hear that. She had some trouble with the stairs, but got the hang of them quickly. I imagine you'd have some trouble with stairs if you'd been locked in a little room for that long. Yes, we're locked in a much bigger room, aren't we? With each other for company. Locked is a strong word, dear. You're right, as usual. We aren't locked in. The hill is more of a moat. Honestly. You sound just like Flora sometimes. Or a hill? I'm not sure the metaphor is necessary. Metaphor? That's a big word. As expected, however, from our resident librarian cum duck slaughterer. On the subject of ducks, I was merely speaking in hypotheticals. Ooh, that's another good word. What does hypothetical mean, Eustace? I regret saying anything. I'm being earnest. It means mind control. You're thinking of hypnosis. 3 for 3. A loud "way" went up around the table. Darcy, let me out, please. Eustace scooted her chair back with a loud squeak and scurried out of the room. Oh, come on, Eustace. Oh, wait, that's not the right voice. Eustace, please come back. Perhaps this is rich of me to say, but I think you lot don't know when to lay off sometimes. I do not understand in this case. 1 minute she is talking about fighting ducks, but now she is upset we are joking about fancy words. Bad timing, I think. Huh. She's very torn up. We all are. It's horrible. Hedwig, dear, if you don't know, I know. As I said, she was joking about killing ducks. I would have thought that would have been worse than joking about words. You're young. It's never the obvious things that remind some folk of grief past. Eustace is the librarian, and Catherine was the chronicler, of course. Peas in a pod they were. Not just them. We all miss her very much. It's not a competition. Flora looked as if she was about to mouth off in response, but at that moment, Eustace re-entered the room carrying a large wooden bowl. What the hell happened in here? We were wondering where you'd gotten off to. We were worried you were upset. Eustace said nothing as she walked to the table with the bowl, smiling gently. That's playing dirty, Eustace. I have no idea what you're talking about. I forgot I'd made this to celebrate our newcomer, that's all. I believe you. Galeed? Galeed? I don't know which. After you've all had candied apple? Goodness. Hehehe. What's Galeed? Pudding. Eustace ladled out the sweet-smelling treat onto everyone's plates. When it was Angela's turn to be offered some, however, she pushed her chair back and stood up from the table, jolting the entire thing forward and causing everyone's plates to wobble. Darcy and Moira had to hold onto their dishes to keep them from spilling over onto their robes. Is everything alright, Angela? No. With a glare that seemed to pass through every pair of eyes in the room, Angela stalked out of the rectory hall. Something tells me she won't be coming back with pudding. I was in considerably higher spirits after eating. I excused myself after finishing the gay lead. I got a little self-conscious about how long I was taking to meet the superior. Even though there had been a few awkward moments, I didn't really want the conversation to end. Still, feeling like I should be responsible and punctual, I excused myself partway through a continued discussion about what animals Eustace could best in hand-to-hand combat. Darcy helpfully volunteered to show me to the office. It was on the first floor. Further down the hallway she'd taken me down on the way to the kitchen and bath. Here you go. Thank you. And thank you again for the mint as well. And for showing me around before. Oh, and I helped cook lunch. Oh, well. Thank you for that as well. I didn't make all of it, but enough that it's sad to not hear a thank you from the others and nice to hear it from you. Well, in I go. In you go! Enter. I opened the door and slipped inside. Darcy watched me with a big grin still plastered to her face. The superior's office was small, but meticulously kept. It was rather plush compared to the rest of the rooms I'd seen so far. A grand window looked out into the garden, and there was a door off to the left that I presumed to lead to a private bedchamber. The superior herself sat at a thick oaken desk in a rather ornate chair. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. Good. Good. Any leads yet? Leads? Any idea who could have killed Catherine yet? Any hint at all? Something to follow up on? No. That's a pity. Monthly Superior, I have been out of myself for all of 6 hours, if that. For much of that time I was ill, and then asleep, and then alone in a bathtub. What clues could you possibly expect me to have already? Did you really think someone would slip up and tell me over luncheon? No. I suppose I shouldn't have counted on anything quite so miraculous happening. I'm getting the distinct sense that, again, either, like I said, she's playing some three-dimensional chess and intentionally wants Hedwig to fail as an investigator, or also distinctly likely is that she's just desperate because she knows she cannot communicate with the nuns of this place. Like, she can't talk to them. They don't seem to respect her, they don't seem to like her. She's an authority figure, so there's inherently a barrier there. And she also seems to be like a particularly kind of commanding authority figure in a way that will like put distance between her and them. So in all of those ways, she's not really going to engender herself to be a confidant for them. And so like Hedwig's then her best bet as someone who doesn't know her that well, and also who she can objectively know she trusts. It is somewhat telling that she doesn't know anyone else she can trust. There is no one from her monastery that she feels like she knows well enough to be confident they're not a killer. Like, that feels like a lot. We've talked to Moira for very little, but I would be relatively confident in saying, like, it's probably not her. And if you've been working with these nuns for years, you should know them. Somewhat. Obviously, there's like, you can never truly be sure how much you know. But it feels like there's a distinct lack of knowledge coming from the superior. She turned around and stepped towards the large window. Some thorny bushes were growing underneath, and a few trees dotted the path between the building and the garden. Light and shadow danced across her habit as she paced back and forth, slowly. I don't even know how Catherine died. I've heard some mournful whispers from the sisters I've met, but I haven't a clue as to what actually happened. When did she die? How? Where's the body? You don't know? Okay, well, she knows some things. There it is. Okay. So that's a lot. Who even has a sword? Anyways, let's read ahead. She was found in the cloister. She was laying on her back, with a sword plunged into the earth just above her. So that's what was there in the grass. I thought it was a crucifix. Oh, it's just been left there. Yes. No one, least of all me, could bear to remove it. It's become something of a monument to Catherine, I suppose. Rather grim. Bloodied sword feels like an awful way to remember someone. You'll get no argument from me, but these women are strange sometimes. Even if none of them was a murderer. That aside, the blade is actually clean. It is? Yes. When we found the stable boy hiding in the yard, his shirt was covered in blood, as if he'd hastily wiped it down before attempting to flee. Who found the body? Catherine was discovered by Sister Charity on one of her morning walks, the round woman you saw at lunch. Don't call someone round. I don't mean it as an insult. What the? Go up, thou bald one. What? Huh. Let's continue before we try to unpack that. What? What happened with Catherine's body? If you're hoping to play surgeon and examine her for clues, I'm afraid she's already been interred. I understand. This was actually a small relief. As determined as I was to find Catherine's killer and help bring them to justice, a dead body was the last thing I wanted to see. Where was she buried? The cemetery is a short hike from here on the hill. I can have one of the sisters show you there, should you feel the need to visit. Say a few words. Huh? I think that might be a... Yes, the weird bug there. Not that you could have known her, I suppose. What a great idea. What if the murderer, since you don't believe it was a suspicious boy with blood on his shirt, decides to off me as well? Perhaps while taking me on a pleasant hike, alone, up to this cemetery? I must say, it feels rather difficult involving myself with the others when you've directed me to spy on them. You make it sound so ugly. We are seeking justice. I had no choice in the matter. I'm pleased with how much spine Hedwig is showing here. I thought she'd be way more... I thought she'd fall in line a lot more. Which I suspect the Superior also expected that. So it's good to know she's like calling her on her bullshit a lot more. Including like with other people. Like, okay, I guess. Let's go back to this moment. Don't call someone around. I didn't mean it as an insult. And then we get a flashback to that story. Go up, thou bald one. This is an interesting, an interesting moment in the game, because that's a moment from the present the present Hedwig, who's narrating the story, has given this bit of context, and we are now having that context infringe on the telling of the story itself. And maybe when the scene's over, maybe present day, Hedwig is going to give a little explanation or something for that. Maybe she'll say, but I have a feeling it's not going to be addressed. I'm not sure what we, as readers of a story with layers, are meant to understand is happening here. There's an obvious connection where, I mean, Superior referred to Sister Charity, referred to as the round one, which is kind of a derogatory way to refer to somebody, though she at least insists that she just meant it as descriptive. Like, it's not an insult, I was just saying a way to pick her out from the other nuns who all dress the same and so have only certain distinguishing features. Which ties to a story where kids ostensibly seemed to be insulting this guy who was going up a mountain, who presumably lacked hair, and so they called him Bald One. And that was taken as an insult, and the children paid for it. I don't know what that's saying about Superior here. Like, there's a certain reading of it where you could take this to be providing a little sympathy to her. That she really shouldn't... She shouldn't necessarily be read in the worst light, because she, again, may have just been sincerely trying to talk about a group of people and had limited ways of describing them. It's an odd one, and also the fact that it literally flashed up for a moment. That wasn't like for me clicking or anything, that's just how the scene was meant to play out. And nothing diegetic, like nothing between Superior and the Hedwig seems to imply that either of them had this kind of momentary flash of anything. I guess... is the, like, implication of in-universe logic that the person hearing the story has related this moment to the other story, Go Up That Walled One. That's what makes the most sense to me, at least at this juncture. It's an interesting stylistic moment. I'm curious to see if it pops up more, or if there's more will come of that as we go. I had no choice in the matter. I'm sticking my neck out based on your intuition. Let's not fight about it. Oh, sure, easy for you to say. No sympathy for you. No. You don't get to, like, ruin someone's, like, literal life's work and then just be like, let's not fight about it. It's all been done with. Let's not, say, expect me to apologize or make any kind of amends. Let's just move on to the thing I want. What's done is done. You are no longer an anchoress. You are free to do whatever you wish once the killer is captured. I was perfectly happy where I was. Don't be ridiculous. You might as well have been a prisoner. If that were so, I'd have been your prisoner. I really, truly do not want to fight about this. Yes, because you lose. Yes, so you keep saying every time I question something. Stop giving me this insolence. By God, where is the awkward little titmouse who introduced herself to service this morning? She's standing in front of you, rather upset about the situation she's been thrust into. You are being naught but a bratty child. A woman, a member of our family, had her bloody head cut off, and all you can think about is your own comfort. These people are not my family. You least of all. I am your superior. I am your abbess. You are under my wing and you do as I say. I have been as accommodating and kind as I possibly can in asking for your assistance, but make no mistake. I do not need to ask, nor will I in future, if I require something of you. Vade ad formicam o piger oit considera vias eus et disc sapientiam. Quae cum non habeat ducum nec precipitorum nec principem. Wait, oh, sorry, that was Hedwig the whole time. Never mind. No, it's not. I misheard. It was superior first. Quae cum non habeat ducum nec precipitorium nec principem parat estet, sibum sibi et congregat in mes quid commidat. I am neither ant nor sluggard, abbess. I will respect your wishes as my superior, but I am not a soldier to be commanded without remark. Are you surprised? I must admit, I'm surprised myself at this moment as well. Maybe my humors were still off-kilter. Maybe I was tired of feeling meek and embarrassed all morning. Perhaps I, free for myself for the first time in many years, was trying out new behaviors to see how they fit me the way one tries on a new cloak at the market. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something else. Do you think Darcy could have been right when she said this place was haunted? I am sorry. Once again, I am being unfair. Ding dong. Please try to understand. I have so much love for this place. These halls are my responsibility, and if it all falls apart, I don't know what I'd do. If you truly believe the stable boy did not do it, I could so easily throw him to the wolves. Don't you see? I do not mean to throw you to them in his place. I mean to take the more difficult path here. I would rather stake my reputation on seeing the truth than condemn an innocent boy for my own gain. It would not be right. I understand. I could feel myself becoming smaller, meeker again. If you want me to start truly investigating things, I need somewhere to start. I can't just hope to stumble into the right answer. May I speak with the accused? The stable boy in the hospital? An obvious but nonetheless excellent idea. I felt so trapped by my position leading the convent, despite this investigation ultimately being my responsibility. I didn't dare think of involving myself so directly, but you could speak with him. I will take you to the hospital. In secret, of course. I'll arrange a time and send for you under the pretense of more chronicler business. I would still pose my first question to you again, however. Think hard. Has anything stuck out as particularly unusual to you? Everything is unusual to me. I was fighting back tears now. Meek. Everything. Did Catherine tell you I barely made it down the stairs this morning? In my mind, I knew what stairs were, but I can't remember if I'd ever actually walked up or down any before today. It will take some time to adjust. I'm not sure if I will ever fully adjust. Have faith. If I could offer one small observation at least. If there's anything I find strange, it's how calm everyone seems. So you felt it too. I'm glad it was not just my own superstition. Everyone seems happy. Especially at lunch, they were joking, laughing. I suppose I'd have no way of truly knowing, but the congregation certainly isn't behaving the way I'd expect them to, knowing one of them just died. It is odd, isn't it? Yes, I suppose. Your instincts weren't wrong in asking for my help. I changed the subject quickly. I did not want the superior to think I was happy with their choice and my situation. God forbid. Oh, a question. Is it true the hours are compressed here? A morning service and an evening office that encompasses every office? Yes. That is fairly standard in most monastic communities nowadays. Why didn't you tell me that? My cell wasn't far away. You know how to use stairs. The bishop forbade it. Why? Because an anchorite's entire purpose is to do the things normal people cannot. She was right. Sorry, yeah, okay. It flashed in a funny way that made me think I'd skipped a line. I tensed and untensed my hands a few times, unsure what to do with myself. I was to bear burdens no one else was expected to, all alone in there. You thought otherwise? I don't know. I suppose I never really considered it. I just read scripture and theology all the time. I had an idea in my mind of what an abbey was supposed to look like, and I thought even if my role was different, everyone else's would be at least similar. It is funny that she even literally has she means it literally when she says she had an idea of what an abbey was supposed to look like. Like, there is an intention and a plan for, like, oh, every abbey should do this thing. But pragmatically, like, practically speaking, not every place can do that. Sometimes you just build them different. And that's not even because they're defying scripture. It's just not realistic to say that the same template can be placed everywhere. Things are very different when you have responsibilities. The day-to-day tasks of earthly life, as much as the monastery reduces them to their basics, are still quite time-consuming. This is a mood. Animals must be tended to. Food must be grown and prepared. Work arises and must be done. Besides, you had your own work to do. You had books to copy, scripture to commit to memory, prayers for the townspeople to amplify. What? You were given written prayers to say for people. That is one of the core duties of an anchorite. I was given no such thing. Now is a very poor time for jokes. I am being completely serious. I have no idea what you're talking about. I copied books, I prayed the hours. I was never given anything else to pray for, save the occasional visitor to the hagioscope's prayers. She gave me a piercing, icy glare. Then, as if a set of strings holding her upright had been cut, she collapsed into her chair. I don't understand. We are very far away from the nearest village or town here. Nonetheless, we are here, and we serve the people of Kelbarrow and their needs. This is something I saw someone else point out. This is a different name to what we heard earlier. I forget the exact name we heard earlier, but it rolled off the tongue a little bit nicer. Offer them help with their prayers. Of course. I would have happily done so if I'd received any. Because we're up on this hill, we're sent supplies from the village. Things we can't grow ourselves, essentials, the occasional holiday luxuries, and so on. She reached down to a drawer under her desk, pulling out 2 small cups and a carafe. She uncorked the container and poured some dark liquid into both cups. Wine. Drink up. She slid one of the cups towards me with her own. I took it gingerly. I had, of course, had wine before, but this smelled different. This is nicer than anything you've had brought to you, I'd wager. One of the aforementioned occasional luxuries. Drink it, please. I braved a sip. She was right. It was different. For one thing, it was quite strong. The superior took a big swig of hers and continued. When you were brought here and made to take the vows. Made to take the vows. Again, lodging that in my brain. One of the first things that crossed my mind was how inconvenient it would be to expect the people of the village to trek up here every time they needed spiritual aid. Why, it'd be positively cruel to make children walk all the way to the anchoress themselves. Old men with walking sticks. You get the picture. And since we are all the way up here on this lonely hill, I thought, why, I know what would make things easier. I offered the townsfolk a simple idea. They're an educated sort down there, you see. Not like us. Or, well... She waved her cup toward the door. More than them. So I told the people to write their prayers down. Give them to the boy who brings our supplies. We'll sort through them and pass them on to the anchoress here. And did they? I saw the envelopes, yes. Many times. I don't understand. The abbess took a final pull from her cup and slammed it back onto the desk. Giving them to you was Catherine's responsibility. Huh. The soul tells the body of something to follow. It was a bit hard to parse, that kind of text. What the hell just happened? I didn't know what to say. The woman who had come to the hagioscope so many times, who had seemed so interested in me and my way of life, had been hiding an entire function of my job from me. Why? It made no sense. The already blurry picture I had of Catherine in my mind was losing even more focus. I needed to find a way to hold on to it. I should start asking the others about Catherine. Be careful. That could raise suspicions rather quickly. Well, I'm taking over her old role. It would make sense to everyone if I asked about her, I think. I should know the size of the shoes I'm meant to fill. As long as you're careful to frame it that way. Of course. The superior let out a heavy sigh and brought a hand to her temple. It was as if she'd aged 5 years over the course of this conversation. I don't understand. I can't even begin to understand. How do you think I feel? I know this is the right thing to do, but I was not expecting things to get this tangled quite so quickly. I will do my best to untangle things, Abbess. I tried my utmost to sound authoritative. Maybe I really was trying out new personalities. The superior gave me a tired smile in response. Bless you. Take a wander around the grounds and talk with some of the sisters. They should be taking most of the rest of the day for their work, but I'm sure they'll make time to chat. I gave a little bow of my head and turned to leave through the large oaken door. I stepped out into the empty hallway. I had no clue where to start looking for people, but I realized now was as decent a time as any to explore the abbey and get my bearings. I think this is a good place to pause. Slightly funny, but I think still worthwhile. That's an interesting turn, and I'm very curious as to why Catherine would withhold those letters. I'll probably think on it before the next time I play, but the obvious assumptions I could make are either an ideological idea that for some reason she doesn't agree with this system, like they either doesn't think that the Anchoress should be reading these letters or saying these prayers, or that the people shouldn't be sending these prayers. Or more self-interested, is she using the letters for something? Blackmail, investigation, like information? There's stuff you could do with those letters, because they're probably quite personal problems. The whole point of the Anchoress is to be private, in a way that you could easily circumvent and undermine if you have written word of them. That's an interesting wrinkle, and we obviously won't get to know Catherine directly to find out the answer, but I'm assuming untangling that will be part of what we talk to the other nuns to discover. Oh, there's a lot of stuff happening. Still don't like the Mother Superior. And I don't expect that to change much, even if we get a bit more sympathy for her. Well, we'll see. She is very easy to hate now, which feels like an indication that long term she's not going to be like the main one to hate. We'll find out as we go. I have no idea how much more of this demo I have left, but I'm enjoying it a lot. If you are also enjoying it, the demo is freely available. You can go check it out. You can follow ZC's Patreon to get like some inside stuff. You can get the full soundtrack too, and I recommend that because that's also very fun to listen to. And the first full act should be coming out sometime this year. Not sure when, but sometime. Anyway, until next time, goodbye, and thank you for watching.